Okay, welcome to the podcast. This is super exciting. I've been like super wanting to get you on for a bit. And I'm
Well,
excited.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited we get to talk about this. Let's talk about let's talk about you achieved how you got into pro league.
Um, well, I originally played with at the time it was Infrared. That team is now SSG today, but basically like I played Challenger League with them the very first season of Challenger League, and they ended up making Pro League, but I ended up getting dropped from that roster. And then since then, I pretty much I made my own CL team, and then I was on that team for like four seasons of Challenger League until eventually we signed under Accelerate our last CL season, and then we made Pro League and we played under EXG for our first Pro League season, and well, now TSM.
How long were you in CL for?
Total, I would say a year and a half, 2 years. It was a while.
How many seasons is that?
Well, it was 5 seasons, but back then was when it was like 3 month long seasons. Because
Oh yeah,
now
sure.
it's 6 months, but now, but back then it was only 3 months.
I mean, talk to me about 5 seasons and what like just about that, like persevering through 5 seasons to make pro league.
I mean, during this 5 seasons, it was rough because I think pretty much I actually don't remember our standings. I know one season or 2 seasons we actually got relegated out of Challenger League because we didn't make top four. We made like fifth or sixth. And then the other seasons we made like fourth, and then I think we made fourth pretty much every season other than the season we won when we made first. But it was definitely a challenge because when you're playing in Challenger League, it's and you're not doing so hot, it can definitely get you down, especially because you're playing for fun mainly. You don't really play for any like money or necessarily. So you put in a lot of time for it not to like reward you. You can definitely feel like down on yourself.
Were you doing anything
Definitely.
else at the time while playing like competitive? Were you in like school or something?
Yeah, I went to I was going to a college. I was going for computer science. I didn't finish my prereqs yet, but that's what I was pretty much doing, was finishing my prereqs. And then I was also working at a grocery store. Um, so I was juggling all of that and playing competitively, which was like a big chore, like a really big chore, but we made it work.
What are the teams you're on in the CL season? I believe you teamed the Gotcha, right? Am I wrong at some point?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
So the
teamed.
first the first team I was on was the infrared team. It was me, Santa, um, Crusher, Trippin, and Leo. That was the team that season. And then I think after that, me and Zed ended up making a team. FPS Zed. That was after his Elevate thing. Me and him ended up making a team. We were under his like Ferocity Esports name until after we qualified for Challenger League, he actually ended up like stepping down. But that team was like me, Remorse, Focons, and like Helby and him.
Oh yeah, I
And
remember that.
yeah, we ended up playing underneath Equinox that season. That's what it was called. We ended up playing under that. Just it wasn't an org. We just played under them, under that name. And then after that season was when I teamed up with like It was like me, Bio Nifty, Remorse, and Helby. And then we were under Vertical Gaming at the time. Um,
The
and
OG
then this,
roster.
yeah, yeah. And then the season after that, I think is that's when we played with Gotcha. Yeah, that's when we played with Gotcha, and in replace of I think Helby. It's so hard to remember all that stuff because there's just so much happened then. And then after that is we played underneath I think Orgless and then EXG. Orgless/EXG pretty much.
I know at some point you guys pick up Crusher and I think what is the team that made pro league? Like what roster was that?
It was the Accelerate one. It was me, Bio, Nix, Crusher, and Shalongi.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk about that. Like sort of the grind towards making CL, making pro league from CL, and did you guys have to play for that? How does that storyline go?
Um, well, me and Bio were on a team for a while. I what Bio Schlongy. Let's see. They had like some previous pro league experience, so we kind of had an idea of like I guess like what to do, like since they've kind of made it, like they kind of like coached us in the terms of like what they think like we need to do to like get like so they can get back there. Crusher was actually on the team with me when like the very first team, Infrared, whenever they made pro league and stuff. He ended up leaving that team because he just didn't want to compete anymore back then. But and then we had Nix, who was also like he played on Xbox competitively, and he was our friend. But I mean, it was a long journey because we were not we were not favorites at all that season. Like even the first like half of the season, we were in like seventh or eighth or sixth or seventh. We were like pretty much dead last. Like the season was going like, terrible for us. But eventually, during the second half, we ended up bringing it back, and then we finished the regular Challenger League season in third. So, and then during playoffs, we ended up beating Disrupt and then Elephant Gang, and then we ended up coming in first overall.
Do you feel like Elephant Gang, because they were sort of a man down, allowed you to win that? Or you think you guys would have won that regardless?
I think we would have won it regardless, and the reason why I say that is because even though that Seth wasn't on that team, he was on Rogue at the time. He was still helping that team,
Okay,
and
that's fair.
yeah. So I mean, it might have went a little bit different with Super, but because Super he was like their IGL, so to speak. But I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But personally, I mean, obviously my team, so like I'm gonna be extremely biased on the matter. But I think we would have still won it personally.
Sort of that team transitions into Pro League EXG and sort of has a very rough start to the season. How was that? What do you think was wrong with that roster? Because I know you guys eventually made roster changes, but before that, going to your first Pro League games, what was the challenge? What was the problem?
Mm, honestly, uh, it was kind of like I'd say like maybe like a lack of motivation for some people, but also just some I mean, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. Like there's also like a lack of experience because even though we had like Schlongy and Bio on the team who had like a little bit of pro league experience, there was still like a lot that like we needed to learn too. Cause like comparing like myself to like back then, like I understand the game a lot more now than I especially like back then when I used to. So like I'm even like personally, I'm really surprised we actually stayed in pro league back then. Just because how like how we didn't know that much about the game, but like now like we seem to understand it a lot more. It's just like it's surprising to me, but at the same time, I mean, I'm glad.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
it was just very hard to be honest with you. It was very hard because it was like we were losing games, but like we didn't know what we needed to do because like everything was fine in like scrims and stuff. Like in scrims, we were doing fine and everything, but for some reason, when we played on like the game days, it was kind of like, oh well, this seems to not be going how like it has been in scrims or vice versa.
Let's talk about that because I think that's just a huge thing with CL teams who transition to Pro League. What is it that those teams lack, in your opinion? What is it that your team lacked specifically? Like, I know you can talk it up to just experience, but if you could be more specific as to like the like points, what CL teams lack when they move towards Pro League and they have to learn the hard way, that doesn't transition easily in scrims.
Um, I mean, honestly, like I think a lot of it comes down with nervousness because in Challenger League, especially like now, I feel like there's not a lot of viewership and there's not a lot of like eyes on it necessary as there is to like Pro League. Like if you make a mistake in Challenger League, like you can brush it off, it's fine. But if you make like the same mistake in like a Pro League match and it's gonna be like a big deal, there's a lot more eyes on it and you're gonna get critiqued a lot more. And people take that I feel like really like personally, and they'll let it affect them in the next play days. So like they obviously they don't want to make the same mistake again, but they end up playing like scared to the point where it's like they're just playing scared. I feel like and they don't necessarily play like how they want to play. They just play. They ended up playing it like really scared. But I mean, I think some people just also just lose motivation when they make pro league, and like egos start to develop like a lot, because like that was even somewhat of a problem on like our team. It's like when we end up making pro league, just like egos would start clashing and stuff, because like, oh, we made pro league, then like, we're like really good, blah blah blah, and then everyone starts feeling themselves a little bit, and then you can start to develop some like pretty like internal problems, because like if you go into pro league with like egos and like some internal problems, after like a game or 2 or 3 games, like say you end up losing your first 2 or 3 games, like then that's when you will really start like butting heads, especially because obviously you can get relegated at the end of the season. So there's like I don't know, there's a lot of like stress and pressure on it as well, for sure.
I'm sort of curious. So you said your scrims were going well at the time as well. Were you guys scrimming pro teams at that time? And if
Yeah.
you were scrimming pro teams, are pro scrims very different from like professional play, like on the stream? Like, how different do teams play when they're not scrimming in a professional environment?
Um I mean personally, like, I mean, I tell my team like don't worry about how the other team's playing in scrims, and like don't complain, like whatever, if because they're like, I'm sure you've heard it, you hear it in ranked all the time. I mean, I've said it a few times as well, but like sometimes people just do some like, they just do some absurd play, or something that's like it doesn't make any sense, but since it's like a scrim, they did it, or even in like ranked they do it. um but personally, like I tell my team like, yo, like let's not worry about that, let's just focus on our game, and just let's try to like counter it if we like, if we need to. um But yeah, no, we were scrimming pro teams at the time. We pretty much have always scrimmed like majority pro teams. Every now and then, like a few times, like a day or two out of the week, we'll probably scrim like a challenger league team, stuff like that.
I'm sort
But
of curious about your first LAN as well, because I feel like we sort of jumped the gate on that. Because you did play on Sinister, I believe, at DreamHack.
mm.
That was your profile picture for like 10 years. I'm sort of curious, how did that go? Like, how was that going to
uh,
the bracket, making it, playing on the stage? I forget the scorings of that. That was such a long time ago. I even forget the roster. Was Neptunes on that? Like, who was on that
um,
roster?
no, Neptunes wasn't on it. It was like it was an old challenger league team called like Boosted, I think. It was Goni's team basically. And they needed 2 people for the DreamHack, because so they ended up picking up like me and Super. Um, And me and Super pretty much, we weren't on the, I think I forget what Super. I think Super just got off like Obey or something, or Air. That's what it was, Air. And I was on, I think, VG at the time. But like me and Super, it was pretty much like set in stone that we were just going to go to the event to like fill in, quote unquote, and like see what happened. Um so we ended up going to DreamHack Austin with them. The full roster was uh Janon, Mush, Goni, me, and then Seth. Super.
Okay,
Um
yeah.
yeah, we ended up going and we ended up playing Mouse Sports in the quarterfinals on the main stage. Like we were the very first game on the very first like stage, which was I mean, kind of, I was kind of nervous, but like not really. For some reason I get more nervous. I'll get like, I don't really get like nervous, like, but like I'll feel more pressure when I play online than I do on lands. And I think a lot of people can like say that, because like when you're on land, it just, I don't know, like we just have a good time usually. But yeah, we pretty much played that event just to fill in. And I mean, it was good. I think it was a very good like event for us to like learn a little bit.
Do you feel like you
Just
learned things personally that like elevated your game, or do you think it was just a good time?
I mean, I actually, okay, so like during that event, I actually played roles that I usually don't play. I actually played like second breacher and like smoke. Like I played like some pretty hard support roles and like Habana mainly. So I definitely learned how it was to be on like the other side of like the spectrum, because like like I never really played those roles, but like then I did. So in terms of like understanding how like the other roles, that definitely helped me there. And I mean, the land experience definitely helped me. But playing with like new faces too, like that whole team, I never played with them before. So that was definitely like it was definitely like an eye opener as well, though. So yeah, I think it definitely like really helped me improve as a player.
So going back into EXE's rough season, at some point you guys switch up and bring your coach Thomas into the game.
Hmm.
What came into that decision? Why did that happen? Why was it Thomas? And I'm sort of curious why it was Thomas also because at that time I don't think he had that much competitive experience. So I was always sort of curious as to why that pickup. I think a lot of people weren't so like surprised by it because they were seeing coaches transition into players. But yeah, I was curious as to why the Thomas pickup at that time.
Okay, so right before that season start, we picked up Tomas as our coach. We knew that Tomas was like a pretty good player because he played in the Challenger League season beforehand, and we thought he did very well. But at the time, like when we ended up parting ways with Knicks, I mean, it was just like it was a really like simple fix just to put Tomas in because we knew Tomas could definitely play. Obviously, we didn't know how he would do because pro league is a whole new environment. But you don't really know how anyone's gonna do, to be honest with you. Um, I mean, if you actually like look at it, we were in like eighth place, and we were like probably like pretty set in eighth place for the most part, at least from everyone else's opinion. So it's really hard to get another player because you can't really take anyone from another pro league team since we're already like dead last, and everyone sees us dead last. Um, so like we could possibly get another like challenger league player who maybe had like a little bit more experience with than like Tomas, but since Tomas is our coach, like we knew Tomas could play, but we also knew Tomas knew how things like operated on the team already. So there'd be a lot less catch up we'd have to play. And since it was in the middle, like the very beginning of the season, we knew that we wouldn't have a lot of time to like A, like try anyone out, and B, like pick a player up and like grow with them. It was just like a much simpler like fix, pretty much.
And how did that go?
I mean, it went pretty well. I would say like we definitely got some points on the board with Tomas. And then like later we actually ended up parting ways with him like at the very end of the season too.
Would you
But
like to
I
talk
mean,
about what went into that and why?
basically, I mean, I guess it's kind of funny to mention it, but like we picked up Pojo as our coach at that halfway mark during that season, and then Pojo ended up stepping in to play for Tomas. But I mean, basically, I'd say it was more like honestly, it was more like clashing heads and just some like it was more clashing heads between our team. Our since like we were seventh/sixth. It goes back to like the thing I brought up earlier, where like if you're in like that relegation spot, that's back when like auto relegation was a thing too. Although like there wasn't one that season because of the Orgos situation, them disbanding. But there's still definitely like a high possibility that we could get relegated. So like I just feel like that made like any the internal problems we had just worse because we just ended up butting heads more, and then just basically things spiraled out of control.
That's fair. I think that's we can sort of use that to transition towards at least getting out of the relegations, not getting relegated, having to play another season. The changes that came into that. You guys eventually dropped the org as well.
Hmm.
Um, I have a question for you. This might be more of a personal question, really quick. I think there's this one time I was in your chat and some guy came over and was like, "Yo, can you what's the word?" He was like, "Yo, can you help me and hit me up with the EXC owner so I can get on this team?" And then you were like, "Oh, I can't do that, man. I don't really believe people should have free gates into anything. I think people should work hard for what they do." I don't know if you remember that, but it was a while ago. I wanted to talk
Huh.
more about that. Yeah, you were basically like, I don't
Was
think
it on my team? Like, was he asking to join
he
my
was he
specific
was
team?
asking for you to hit up the org owner to get because he's a player in another game, basically.
Oh.
And then you were like, you just don't think people should just, you think people should be able to work
Huh.
hard and prove themselves. I don't know if you still have that mentality. I don't know if you remember that. I'd love if you feel like you still have the mentality, you can talk more on that. But I was sort of curious about that. I thought it was cool. I don't think it was. I have nothing against that statement. I think it's a fair statement if you think people should work hard for stuff like that. Because he was
I,
asking that you put in a word for him or something. I don't know. It was weird.
huh. I mean, I mean that. I mean, I definitely still believe that like you should obviously work hard, but I mean, it is kind of like, in my opinion, like I shouldn't have. I probably like looking back at that, I definitely shouldn't have said that because I don't know the guy and I don't know like what he like how hard he's worked. But to like go back to like that, like I mean, I can't really put good words in for other people that I don't know. Because personally, like I value my word a lot. And like this has even happened to one of my IRL friends, and me and him have had a fallout since then. But like I believe that like unless I know you extremely well and I know like that you put in like an absurd amount of work and you're very good at like what you do, I can't really put a good word in for you because like if I put in a good word for you when I don't know you and I don't know how you are, and like say you end up getting hired or like whatever, like you end up joining, and then like it's a complete like embarrassment, then it only like I feel like it only hurts my name. You see what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean that's kind of like my take on it, I guess. But I didn't know the dude personally, so it's kind of like I don't know. I don't really believe that I could have put in a good word for him, so to speak.
And that makes sense, to be honest. Yeah, because like, what if he turns out to not be the player? No one can
Yep.
take your word for that again. I want to talk a little bit more about that ethic, as you've definitely sort of persevered through CL and a couple, like a lot of downs. Do you, like, what are the major things you've learned on this road towards like where you are right now? Because I think right now your team is in a much stronger state than the last maybe 3, 4 teams you've been in. How do you sort of still individually grow in the midst of all those challenges? How do you keep yourself going?
Yeah, no, this team is definitely better than any roster I've been on. But I mean, I guess I was very okay. So during like my early like CL days, my first like few seasons, I definitely like would say I had like a pretty big ego, and I was like, I looked at numbers a lot, and I think every young player does, to be honest with you. They all like, especially like fraggers, they all look at numbers and they're like, oh, I'm plus 20 or I'm plus 30, like, oh, but this other guy, so it's like plus 5 or minus 10, but like he's telling me something I should do, but I'm not going to take his word for it because like look at me compared to him type deal. And I mean, I definitely say that that was definitely like one of my problems. Um, for instance, like I wouldn't listen to like Bio a lot. Personally, I think Bio's like a really good player, and I still take Bio's advice up to this day. Um, but there was a time like where I was like pretty like set in my ways. I had a really big ego, and I was just like, I'm not gonna like take your advice because of like just statistically speaking, like unless you're better than me, I'm not going to take your advice. But eventually I ended up like dropping the ego and then just taking like anyone's advice, especially like his like bio, like I listened to a lot. He like coached me through a lot of things, and then later on like any coaches we had, especially like Pojo, Tomas, or any other player, like if you have like criticism, like especially any of my teammates now, like or back then, like the last like few like 2 seasons, like I told them like, yo, if y'all having like any criticism like at all, like let me know, like, and then I can like reflect on that and then like go from there.
I think that's amazing, sort of finding yourself and like, improving on that mental aspect. Um, at some point in comp, people start to ban Buck against you quite a lot. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I know you say you don't put that much time in Buck, but
Mhm.
I think a lot of EXG season, like people just straight up ban Buck against you guys on attacks. Let's talk about how you became such a good player, at least in other people's regards, and how you deal with those bans.
Okay, so there's actually a very funny story behind this. Um, okay, so well, I first of all, I just want to say that I'm surprised, like, because like I know like a lot of people banned like a few people banned Buck like last season when I was having like a very good like first season. Like I know like a lot of people were just like, oh, yo, like ban Buck. They banned Buck, but like I was really surprised when we were at DreamHack and we played against like Liquid in the finals. Like they banned Buck on like a map too, and then I think like we played another team, like FaZe, I think, and they also banned like Buck as well, like one map. And I was really surprised about that because it was like they banned Buck on like some maps they usually don't ban Buck. So I thought maybe I didn't know maybe if they were target banning me, and I mean maybe they weren't. I don't know. Maybe they just banned Buck because they thought Buck's a good ban on that map. But like I don't know. I think it's very funny because just like this, like the story behind it is I used to never be able to play Buck. Like I kid you not, like back in the day in Challenger League, like Bio would literally like tell me during scrims, like, "Yo, get off Buck. You can't play Buck. Play Sledge." And like him just saying that, like, just it made me like furious. So like for the next like month or two, I literally would just play T Hunt and only play Buck, and just to like get better with the recoil, get better with the skeleton key, just get better with the movement, and eventually like I just practiced it so much that I was like really good at it, because like him just telling me that he like, yo, you can't play Buck, you need to play Sludge. And then now like people like kind of see it the opposite, I guess. Like a lot of people are like, oh, he can't play Sledge, he can play Buck. But it's funny because like even my rank stats, I think I have like 70 hours on Buck, but like on Sledge I have like 180. So like I have like a lot more time on Sledge, even in like T Hunt and stuff. So um, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is about Buck, but I guess I'm just a little better with him. But eventually, I just put in the time and ended up getting better with it because I was tired of people telling me that I wasn't good with it. So
And then when people started banning it, did you feel like that ever, for a second, deterred you, or do you think like you sort of expected that at some point? Did it catch you off guard when people started banning it? How did you react to it?
it definitely caught me off guard. I don't know who we played who banned it first. I want to say we played
Yeah, I
DZ.
was gonna say it's DZ.
Yeah. Yeah, we played DZ on Oregon and they ended up banning Buck. And like I mean, that was crazy, to be honest. I was not expecting that at all. I was like, wait, what? These guys just banned Buck. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, I know I've had like a few good games on him, but like they actually just banned Buck. I was really surprised, to be honest with you. But like with how much play time I have on like Sledge, like Sledge is just as good, if not like even better. Like obviously both of them have their like plus and minuses, but I would say that I'm just as like comfortable on Sledge. But nah, it was most certainly a surprise. Like it 100% caught me off guard. And for the next month, instead of playing Buck and Scrims, I only play Sledge. Like I would only play Sledge just to get better at that.
Definitely, I feel like Buck is a better operator usually if the choice is open. How does that adapting to Sledge? Can you give me an example on a certain map how you sort of adapt to using Sledge and how that might change how you approach like destruction from above?
hmm Okay, so it definitely depends like what map on like which one is like better like over like Buck or Sledge. But there's some maps out there. I don't know if you've played like, okay, definitely if you're doing like underneath, like obviously you need Buck, right? Like you can't do Sledge unless you like hop on like the car of a hood or something, and like or kitchen counter.
Yeah,
But
for
like
sure.
for the most part, like you need Buck if you're gonna do the underneath play. But there's some maps out there, like I'll use Villa for an example. I don't know if you've ever played like a vertical gameplay on Villa, but if you sent like master or something, you're breaching above kitchen, you can't really use Buck to do that because there's these big wood beams, and it's just easier for Sledge to do that over like Buck, because like Sledge can get more use out of his hammer than Buck can with his like his skeleton key, like for sure. Like he can get more uses out 100% and make more like holes. But like I mean, Buck's like I guess the hardest thing to transition from like the Buck to like the Sledge was just like I use my shotgun pretty frequently to get kills. Like if there's someone who's like running up on me, or I know like I'm closing the gap on someone, I will bring out the skeleton key and just shotgun him, because like why not? And I'd say that's probably like the biggest like change between like Buck and Sledge for me is like if I'm on Sledge, then like I obviously have like my SMG and my AR, but like the SMG is still really good, but obviously it's not like a shotgun on your gun. You know what I mean? So that's definitely like the biggest like like the biggest like I'd say like difference for me
Well,
personally.
what would you say your most played ops on defenses in competitive are?
In competitive, I don't know. It's hard to say because I used to play a lot of Jaeger, Mirror, and Smoke back in the day. But I'd say probably Pulse Valk, to be
I was
honest
gonna
with you.
say I see you more on C4 ops right now than
Yeah,
anything
nah,
else.
yeah, definitely Pulse Valk, especially in the last like year. I've been playing like a lot of Pulse Valk and Mozzie, and just yeah, I play a lot of C4 ups, to be honest.
Okay, so you definitely started getting better in some operators. I'm curious to sort of know. Um, Do you feel like you ever hit a time in any of these teams where you plateaued as a player and you weren't necessarily improving? And if you did, how did you deal with that? What was your problem solving that? Or it was just like you were scrimming and stuff, but you weren't necessarily getting better or getting worse. You were just sort of the same. Or maybe there were times you felt like you were getting worse. I'm sort of curious if you ever had any of those experiences.
Yeah, no, I definitely did. Like even like recently, like I feel like I was better last season than I have been this season. But like everyone tells me like I'm not. Like I'm obviously better this season than I was like last season. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's very easy to like look back at like old clips or old games and then like see like some of the plays you made and then like look at yourself now. It's easier just to like I guess you could say like not look like it's easier to look back at things and be like, wow, I was better then than I was now type deal. But like you really have to like just ask your teammates like, yo, like have I been getting better or like what's the deal? Do you think I was better back then? Because like yeah, like not gonna lie, like recently I used to feel like I was better back then, like especially like last season than I have been like recently. But I mean, I think it's just how we view things. Sometimes I feel like that could definitely get in our way, but there's definitely times where you feel like you plateau too. Like you feel like you're just like rinsing and repeat, I guess you could say. Which is why it's like good to try new things and like experiment with stuff because that can open up like a whole new like spectrum for you, I think.
What's an example of something new you've tried that's you felt like opened something up for you?
Um so I mean mainly just like a new strategy or like a new way to like play a certain position. So like for instance like instead of like maybe like giving something up like instantly like you maybe like roam a little harder on it or like hold it down a little harder, try to get a pick or two. Like or whether it goes to like playing different operators like for instance like Mozzie. I've even played Cade a little bit and some people say like I'm pretty good at Cade, like just playing like different operators in different positions rather than like sticking to one thing and only doing like one thing because to me personally like whenever I only played like Buck and like Valk like or Pulse like that got boring. Like personally I'd rather play like some other operators like every now and then. That's why you see me on like Zofia now a little bit, Sledge, Buck, and then every now and then I'll play like Nomad or just like anything that the team needs. So like I definitely feel like playing other operators and other positions definitely can like open you up and like just keep like a like more of an open mind, I feel like, rather than just staying in the same groove of things like rinsing and repeating.
All right, so I'm gonna take us all the way back to the new rosters and um post not getting relegated as EXG. You guys eventually dropped Schlongi, and then you eventually drop Thomas as well, and Poja gets put in the mix. What happens in that time space between that and picking up Merc, and eventually picking up Bolo? What goes into picking up Merc there? Um,
Um so if you look at the team like last season, I think I was like me and then I think I was like the only one positive on the team and I think like Tomas was like plus a few a little bit as well. So like we definitely knew that we needed some like gunners, you know what I mean? Like we definitely knew that we needed to make a change and we needed some more fragging potential on the team because like that's what we really lacked in, which is so we ended up picking up Merc and then Bolt. So like Pojo played like like the last two games, but he ended up going back to like coaching. And that's when we ended up. So the roster was me, Crusher, Bio, Fultz, and Merc for like the Allied Minor event, and we made it to the finals to qualify, but we ended up losing 2-1 to like SSG. And then that's when Fultz went to SSG. But like we definitely seen that like Fultz and Merc are like some young gunners in Challenger League when they were obviously when they were on OC. We knew that they were teammates, so we knew they had chemistry. So it was kind of like a like let's try this thing out, let's see how it worked. Obviously Fultz ended up leaving us, and we ended up picking up Bolo. We were actually already probably going to try out Bolo, but Bolo wasn't 18 yet, so we had to play the Allied Minor. Um, obviously with other people. Uh, but we definitely like our intentions on picking up like Merc and Bolo were like like we need some like we just need some gunners. Like we need to because obviously like where our spot was in pro league, like we are on the line still. Even though we placed sixth, we were still on the line without a doubt. And like um at the end of the day, we needed some just gunners who would like hopefully bring us up and basically like just help out.
So talk to me about uh why Merc at the same time. I think that might have caught people by surprise. We know, like I think it was obvious he played very well. Was this just another factor if he plays really well in CL? Was that a huge reason why he was picked up?
Um yeah, I mean mainly like he was on OC, and I think they placed like third or fourth that season, but they placed like first in the regular season. But when playoffs came around, they placed third or fourth. But he was definitely having like a really good like season, and we knew that he played the game a lot like outside of like practice. So like he was about like the grind, you could say. Like he really wanted to get better, and he really wanted to take his game to the next level. Um, but like he was kind of like exactly what we needed. We need someone to play like Ash and like Jaeger and just like run in, get kills, or like roam with me on defense. And there wasn't many options like at the time, to be honest, that we were like looking at. Like Merc was, even though Merc had like very little experience, he had like one season of CL underneath him. He was definitely like the pickup for us. We just really didn't see anyone else who would like play as good as him slash like have as good as like a mentality as he did.
That's fair. So with picking up Merc and Bola, how did that affect your roles? Because those are both very aggressive players. Does that change the equation to like almost three entries? Do you become more of a flex player in that equation? How does that change how you were
Um,
playing the seasons before?
well, when we originally picked up Bolo didn't play like an entry role. The main entry was Merc, and then I was the second entry. And then it's still even kind of like, I mean, it's still even kind of that way. Like, um, Merc and like Merc does like okay, Merc is like the set entry, like for sure. But then like me and Bolo will like depending on like strats and like what map or like who we play, like it honestly varies. Like Bola plays a little bit more of a flex slash supportive role in defense. Um, um, but like at like when we originally picked him up, he definitely wasn't like an entry. Like I know if you go back in our VODs a little bit, like you'll even see him he'll play like Habana and stuff. Like but now like he plays kind of like Zofia a lot and some other like soft breachers or but I mean it mainly depends to be honest with you. Like I'd say right now like Merc is the main entry. Back then it was like me definitely second entry and then Bolo like third slash flex. But like it honestly it just changes around like depending on what ops we are on and depending like what we see like I know you've seen it at DreamHack, right? With the whole like liquid thing when Bolo ran in like when Bolo got sight in the first like 30 or 40 seconds, like he even got an ace that round. Like we just kind of seen something and then like we just had him react on it. It kind of varies to be honest with you. I'd say we're both kind of like flex slash second entry. You could probably say.
I'm sort of curious as to how do I word this? Okay, so especially with TSM. So now that you guys have found these entries, do you guys have a strong? Did you feel like you guys had a strong enough support system? Now at this time, you guys had bio, especially for the rally major. Do you feel like those complemented it? Because I think with you might have good entries, but without a good support system, that doesn't necessarily like correlate. And I think there can still be some issues.
Mhm.
So at the time, did you feel like you guys had a good support system to support these entries?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely did, to be honest with you. Like, Pojo was obviously like the hard support, and then Bio was our IGL slash like second support. I mean, don't get me wrong, well, supports are like more valuable than entries, to be honest with you. Like, everyone wants to entry out there, and all that. But like at the end of the day, like you like in order for your team to shine, like you need really good support players that are going to drone, that are going to do stuff that everyone else doesn't want to do, and like they're going to get like they're not going to get the spotlight or they're going to get some of the, like a lot of the blame because they don't have like kills or like whatever. But at the end of the day, like support players are like the backbone of a team. Like you need to have really good support players, and like we definitely thought we had some really good like support players for sure, and like Bio and Pojo especially.
How was the Rally Major playing that on LAN? Like, how did that turn out?
I mean, turned out pretty good. Our very first map, our very first opponent, we played Empire. We won the first map. The second map was Club. We won the first map, which is Cafe. The second map was Clubhouse. I mean, we all definitely feel like we could have won that map. There was like some very key and crucial rounds that we just didn't step up and clutch on. We ended up losing the map, I think 7-4. But there was definitely 2 or 3 rounds that could have definitely went our favor if we just clutched up and came up big. But I mean, Empire is just, I mean, they're a really good team, and they have like extremely well talented players, and like they're able to just to clutch up when it matters. Like if anyone's going to win that round, it's going to be Empire. Like a 2v4, anyone's winning that, it's going to be Empire. Like some of the players on that team are just like absolutely like disgusting, to be honest with you. But I mean, the major went pretty good. So we lost 2-1 against Empire. We won against MIBR and Noringu 2-0, and then we made it out of groups. Uh, no one predicted us to make it out of groups, but I mean, well, a few people. I think like one caster, and then like a few players did. So like that was pretty exciting for us to all go to our first major and make it out of groups. And then right out of the gates, we played G2 on the on the main stage quarterfinals. Consulate was somewhat like of a good game, I guess you could say. I think we lost 7-3 or 7-4. There's definitely a few rounds that game that could have went our way too. But and then Villa, we just got like smoked. We lost like 7-1 or 7-2. Like we got obliterated on Villa. Um, I mean, I personally I think the Raleigh Major went pretty good. We only lost to the first place team and the second place team. Like we didn't drop a map. Like we only dropped maps to them. So I'd say overall that was like a pretty good event for us.
Do you feel like playing against? What did you notice playing? Because I guess that's not the first time you're playing an EU team, but at least playing against G2, they're in a LAN environment. People say that's their. Do you really feel like they were that better, especially on Villa? Because it was very dominant at that point. The second maps. How do you feel like that was checking out these other teams like Empire and G2, where they seem to be super hyped up? Eventually, they go on to be first and second place, obviously, so they deserve those wins. But did you feel like what people say about them are true? As G2's coordination, Empire's trade game, or just how they play?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it was our first time playing the two Titans. You could say like those two teams are incredibly good. Um, G2 is okay. So like, well, Empire plays a little bit more structured. I know everyone knows that they play a little more structured. They play a little bit more to the T. They're still extremely good at trading though. And then G2 is really good at like finding a weakness mid game and like just like exposing it. Like they're really good in the terms of trading and like playing as like a full team and backing each other up. Like I've never played them online, like either team, obviously, and I probably never will. But like so I've only ever played them at a LAN event. So I don't really know like the change between online and LAN. But they're definitely like two very good teams that rely like really heavily on trading and like teamwork, which is very good and what you should do, to be honest.
Did your team take anything from those games that you feel could have elevated your team's game coming to the second half of the season? Because not only
Um,
that, you also go ahead to play DreamHack. So I'm sort of curious as to if you take and you win DreamHack. Let's not let's not forget that. But do you think you guys took anything from those games against like the two Titans that elevated your game?
um, definitely. We definitely like looked at their trading, and just teamwork. I mean, to be honest, that was like the main thing. Like our main goal is when we got back from that event, like our practice was like, yo, like like let's just improve our teamwork. Like that's our main thing. And then I mean, we pretty much just went from there. That was the main thing. It's just teamwork and coordination. Like let's get that down pack and let's just go from there mainly.
How do you practice teamwork in a scrim?
Okay, so when we practice teamwork in a scrim, we basically just we try to play together. Like we're trying to like, yo, if I die, like get my trade, like or like just coordination in general, whether it's like burning an ADS and instantly nading the guy, you know what I mean? So he has like no time to react, or whether it's like, yo, I'm gonna peek, like it's a 2v1 or whatever, like, yo, I'm gonna peek left, you peek right, like boom, like, or holding crosses. There's a lot that goes into it, but basically like a lot that has to do with teamwork is just communication, to be honest with you. Like communicating everything you're doing and talking to your other teammates and make sure you're all like you're both on the same page.
That's fair. So you guys eventually go to play DreamHack after the Rally Major not long. What were your expectations heading into that tournament? Granted, you guys did win it, and you dropped bio. What was your expectation going to that tournament, and how did things turn out? All those games, I'd love to hear from your perspective, like that DreamHack in general.
I mean, we definitely did not go into that event expecting to win. Like we picked up Jarvis for like I think we played like a week with Jarvis, like before that event. Like we had a week of practice. Just because like right after we got back from the major and then like practice started up, like we had no time. So like we definitely came to that event like who's in our group was Sonics, Zays, and I'm honestly I forget the other team. The reason why is just because we didn't play them. I forget who else was in our group. But like our main goal I would say was definitely to like beat the Sonics and then make it out of groups, because obviously like we were seventh and during pro league at the time and Sonics were eighth. So like we felt like that, like even though we just made a roster change, we might have only had a week of practice, like we definitely need to show that like we can beat these guys like on land, especially if we want to like climb up the second half in pro league, you know? And then after we beat them, like our main goal was like, okay, well, like let's beat FaZe, like let's make it out of groups. And then we made it out of groups. And then um we ended up playing like Rogue in quarters, which was like that was probably like that was a really tough game. Um we ended up losing one map. But like it was just tough because we knew like we know Rogue is like we know Rogue like because we scrim them a lot, we play them a lot, and they scrim us a lot, they play us a lot. But that was definitely like a really tough match. And then I mean we kind of just like went with the flow. Like after we beat Rogue, we were like, okay, cool, we're in semis, like that's pretty cool. Nice, we get to play on Sunday, we get to play an extra day now, and then we end up beating BDS, and then from there we went on to play Liquid, and then we ended up beating Liquid. I mean we definitely didn't expect much. Like our main goal was just to kind of like get out of groups and then like whatever happens happens. But like any time that we go to a LAN, whether it was Valencia, the major, or DreamHack, like to be honest, we all just go there and we have a good time. Like don't get me wrong, like we all really want to do good, but like our main goal is just to go, like have a good time, play the game and basically just have fun. So
That's fair. Yeah, you guys had some really tough matches. I remember I believe the phase match went towards the third map, all the way towards Club and Bank. And you guys also pick up Gotcha at that point. Was there a lot of prep work he sort of gave you guys heading into that, or was it very freestyle, on the fly, coaching support? Did he have a lot of prep work on these teams to support you guys in some of these matches?
yeah, no, he had a lot of prep work. He has we like he has like a lot of like analytics on other teams. Like he does all the VOD work for that. Like in terms of like writing this stuff down. Like we all do our own VOD work, our I can't say it.
VOD review?
Our own VOD review on other teams as well as like our gameplay. But yeah, no, I mean he's the one who like writes it all down. He's the one who watches our VODs every like week. Like especially when he came on, he really like helped us with our teamwork, to be honest. Like our teamwork and trading was like a really big thing. Like he helped us on and just playing like more together as a team, for instance. Um but yeah, no, we had like everything down on like paper, like just in case if we forgot something, like we could look down and look at our like our paper and then see like just in case if we forgot about something. But he had a lot of other like work on them, like what their tendencies are, what they like to do on certain sites, what are their ops they like to run. So yeah, no, he was definitely like a huge factor in us like winning that event as well. 100%.
Um, so I want to talk about Gotcha and just how he's transitioned, not necessarily from a coach to a player. We can talk about that in a second, but also compared to every other coach you had, even when Pojo was a coach, how different was Gotcha from every other coach that was there? Do you really feel like having Gotcha as a coach stepped up like TSM's game?
Um, yeah, no, I definitely stepped up our game. I definitely say Gotcha's probably the best coach I've had, not taking any credit away from Pojo, and Pojo will say this for himself. When Pojo first started coaching us, don't get me wrong, Pojo did a lot of work as well. But Pojo was new to the coaching role, right? So like Pojo knew like what he could do, but he didn't have a lot of experience at it. When we picked up Gotcha, Gotcha was the coach for EG, right? So like he had like a lot of experience already. Like he coached him for like a season and a half or something. Like he went to multiple like lands with him and helped coach him. Um, but even Pojo will tell you like Gotcha's coaching is really good. Like Gotcha like knows what to coach you on and like everything like that. And Pojo even ever said like if he ever returned to coaching one day, like Pojo would be a lot better of a coach now just because of Gotcha and like what Gotcha has been able to teach us and what we've been able to like learn from him.
Um, yeah, I think that's actually super cool because right now there's obviously a lot of controversies about people saying Gotcha is just someone who goes around snaking people for player roles. I personally think that's ridiculous because the example people give with EG doesn't make sense because Geo could literally not play. What was it with TSM? Why was Gotcha moved to a player role for the remaining half of the season?
So Gotcha was moved to a player just due to some like internal factors slash like I mean, we just like we. I mean, even though like I know like we got scrutinized a lot, and we're still going to this day because of the Jarvis situation, obviously, and I know that's what everyone wants to hear about. But I mean, we honestly felt that we needed to just like Gotcha needed to step in, like because just like just how things are going. Like there's a little bit of like internal stuff going on, but there was just like a lot like behind the scenes in terms of like gameplay and just motivation that really thought that needed to be like addressed, to be honest.
That's fair. How is Gotcha as a player compared to a coach? Do you feel like he still steps up to the role? A lot of people think he underperformed in the first game. He debuted as an official player compared to his coach subbing streak. Obviously, you guys played the best team in the season at the time. How was that game?
Our first game with Gotcha we played SSG and we won. Like we won 7-2. But for some reason a lot of people they didn't really say much after that. But for some reason after we lost against DZ, which is the best, they've been like the best team in NA like especially regionally in like the recent like seasons. But for some reason after that loss, we got like a lot of hate for that. And I'm not sure why because we just beat SSG with him. Um but if you look at our points, like we like tripled our points in the second half than like we did in the first half or very close to it. In the first half we had 4 points. In the second half we got like 11. So, I mean it definitely like worked out for us. Um but I mean, yeah, no, that was just a tough game in general against DZ. I'm not sure why like everyone hopped on like the hate bandwagon for Gotcha, and I feel bad for that. But Gotcha as a player is, I mean, he does what we need him to do. I mean, like Gotcha Gotcha plays more of a flex slash support role on this team than he did on like EG. So like no one on our team was expecting him to drop, go like plus 10 or plus 8 every game or something. You know what I mean? Like no one was expecting that from him because at the end of the day, like he's on a team with me, Merc, and Bolo, which do like a lot of the entry slash roaming, right? So like Gotcha's stuck on roles that like are like flank or like smokes or just he's stuck on a lot more of a supportive like play style. So we don't like for like what he had to do, like he filled in like really good for us. Like he helped IGL a little bit. He helped call strats a little bit, basically, and then he did his job. He did what we needed him to do. Man.
Um, so there's a lot of rumors going into even way before TSM that you tried out for SSG, but for some reasons that didn't pan out. Do you want to speak more on that?
Um, yeah, basically, I was, but I had faith in my team. be honest with you. At the end of the day, like I had faith in the new roster we had in terms of like me, Bolo, Merc, and then Crusher and Bio at the time than I did with that team. Not like anything against those players because they're all like really good players. But when you're a part of a team for as long as I've been on this team now for 2.5 years. You know, I'm like the only guy on this team who's been around the whole time. Like although like Bio was around for a very like large bit of it, it was very hard for me to honestly like part ways with like Bio and Crusher. Like that was the hardest part. It was like those guys are like people that I really enjoy playing with. Like it was just like that was the main thing. It was just really hard for me to leave my old team or which was going to be my old team at the time.
Yeah. Why was Crush not in the roster again?
Okay, so before Valencia, we knew Crusher was going few. He was going through a few personal things. His dog, his lifetime dog, was really sick. Was getting like in a very bad state. Um, we knew that. That's which is why Crusher had some like focus problem. Like for that whole season, like he had a lot going on between his family, his brothers, and then his dog, and then like he wasn't able to focus on the game. But when we went to Valencia, like it was really good. Crusher performed like very well there. Like Crusher was with us. He was focused. He was he left all that other stuff behind him. Like he was just he was in Spain with us. We were playing. He was focused. It was all good. But when we ended up going back home and continuing through the season, the problems are like arose again. And Crusher actually like benched himself. Crusher actually told Pojo like, "Yo, like you need to play again. Like you need to step in. You need to fill my shoes because I have a lot going on right now and I can't like continue to play." And I talked to Crusher. I was like, "Are you sure, man? Like I know you have a lot going on, but like, are you sure you want to do that? Blah blah blah." And we ended up sitting down. Like we all ended up sitting down having a talk with Crusher, and Crusher was basically like, "Yeah, like I need to take a step back and deal with my RL stuff first." Basically, yeah, we ended up playing with Pojo after that.
I want to go back into DreamHack really quick and talk a little bit more about the game versus BDS. How was that game? A lot of people making him look like a potential titan going into Pro League. Because I know you guys. It wasn't a three map game, was it? I know you guys put Cafe.
It was two.
Yeah.
It
So
was Cafe and Club.
yeah, like how was that game for you guys? You feel like they just made a lot of mistakes you guys capitalized on? Were you guys just like literally on the heater that game and that was like everything went right for the team?
Mm, Honestly, no one on our team was on like a specific heater. Like I know if you go back and look at like the stats, like our stats are all like pretty close. Like none of us are like plus like double digits or anything. Like compared to like some of our other games. Like we were all playing like good, but like I think we played well in terms of like teamwork and like in the teamwork aspect. Like a lot of like I still to this day when a lot of people play fours and even like BDS, like I feel like a lot of people play scared or give them too much credit. Like at the end of the day, like they have some very good like shooters on their gunners, like for sure. Like they have a lot of gun skill on their teams. But like we like when we played BDS, we weren't afraid to take our gunfights at the end of the day. Like when we played them, we didn't give them any extra credit. We didn't give them any less credit. We played our game. We took our gunfights that we always take, um, and we did not play scared at all. We like we even got a few messages from like other pro league players in NA like after the game. They're like, "Wow, like y'all playing against BDS really motivates us because when we played them, like it was not like that at all. Like we were scared. We did not want to take our gunfights. They were just like, wow, we're really proud that y'all like just took your gunfights and y'all played your game. I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We definitely didn't give them any credit, I guess you could say. Like we knew they were good, but like at the end of the day, we just played our game. We were not scared at all.
So going into and picking up Merc and Bolo, and you spoke about how Merc puts a lot of time into the game. Do you think that's something a lot of potential players can learn who want to be pro league someday? Like, do you think how much time in the game is should potential players be putting in if they want to be able to compete and get potentially picked up at a higher level?
I mean, it's gonna be extremely hard. Like, no matter how much time you get, how much time you put in the game in order to get picked up on a pro league team. To be honest with you, getting picked up on a pro league team is probably not gonna happen for a lot of people, unless you're like a superstar. Um, but like, you're probably gonna have to just make a team and qualify. But I mean, I have like I have like a really like hardworking mindset, I guess you could say. I have the mentality like, obviously I believe in like quality over quantity. Like, for sure, I'm a big quality over quantity guy. Like, I believe, yes, you should be putting in a lot of time, but it needs to be like quality time. Like, I'd rather put in 3 good hours of practice than 9 hours of just not very good practice. Like, but at the same time, like, I do put in, like, we all put in like a lot of time, but it's a lot of like quality time necessarily. Like, we don't burn ourselves out. We don't rinse and repeat things, like, especially like, we're not going to scrim a map for 3 times in a row and do all the same exact stuff. Like, we like to try new things out and stuff like that. But I'm a firm believer of, like, if you want to become like better at like anything, you need to put in more time like now than you like used to, and it needs to be like more quality like practice as well. Um, but I mean, how much due to like how much time people should be putting in? I mean, it's tough to say because a lot of people, like, especially in Challenger League, you need to go to school or work. Like, it sucks, but like, you need to do that. You need to juggle like Siege in like a side hand. You know what I mean? Like, you can't put all like you well, you can put all your baskets into Siege, but you just got to make sure it works out if you're going to do that, because if it doesn't, then like you won't really have anything to fall back on. So it's kind of tough to say when people talk about putting in time, but I think, like, obviously every team should scrim like 5 or 6 days a week. um I'd say like 5 or 6 is a good amount. And then obviously you need to put in time outside of practice. If you just get on for scrims, like, you're gonna get a little better, but you're not gonna get like a lot better. Like, if you really want to like elevate your gameplay to the next level, you need to be putting extra time into ranked, into T hunt, to like whatever you like to do, whatever you prefer. Like, mainly like ranked's really good to play in my opinion, because like you'll get used to a lot of these like plays and stuff that people like to make. And it'll discipline you. It can discipline you more. Um, but I don't know, I'm a firm believer that you need to put like a lot of time in outside of practice too. Like, you can't just play scrim, to be honest.
So you think ranked is important towards growing as a player, growing as a
Mhm.
player, especially in the competitive aspect. Do you think it's important? Do you think ranked gets people's names out there? Do you think ranked can be a factor towards getting your name as there as a player?
It's tough, to be honest with you, because I mean, it it's really easy to play against people in ranked and just be like, oh, it's just ranked. This guy's just doing that. And not gonna lie, like, sometimes that is true. Like, not gonna throw any names out there, but there's some people that I've played in ranked and I've gotten completely demolished every time I've played them. But when I've scrimmed those guys later on that day, or vice versa, and we completely demolish them. Like, competitive play is like a really different aspect. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it is 100%. But I think the reason why I think it's like important to play like ranked is because ranked helps build like because the excuses get thrown a lot, especially in NA and scrims. Like, yo, like, this guy's just doing this in scrims, but he won't do that on game day. Like, ranked will help you against people like that. Like, ranked will make you that way. You're like always prepared. You're always ready. Like, you'll learn new stuff out about the game. Like, there's a lot of things that you'd be surprised. There's a lot of things that I learn in rank that I've never ever seen in like a competitive environment ever before. Whether it's like an angle, or like just in general, like how someone uses a gadget or just stuff like that. Like, I've never seen that in like a scrim or something. So whenever I play ranked and I learn about that, it's like, if that ever happens in a scrim, like, I won't be surprised. Basically, like, I'll have already like seen it before and like know how to like react on it. But in terms of like getting noticed through ranked, I think it's really hard. Like, I think if you play ranked, like, like, ranked could definitely get you on like a challenger league team, but like, it's not going to get you on a pro league team. If you go around like dumpstering every like pro league player in ranked, like, it means something in terms of like, you probably have like really good gun skill and stuff, and you probably have like pretty good mechanical skill. But I think it's really easy to brush it off like, oh, this wouldn't happen in like a competitive environment. So like, the chances of like people going from like getting their name out there into like the pro league, like I guess you could say, like player base is probably like not going to happen. But playing like a lot of ranked and get noticed will definitely help you get into like challenger league for sure, and help you like it help you like start your competitive career basically.
Okay, well that's fair. I think with that we can conclude this podcast. This was freaking amazing to talk to you. I think I've been sort of watching you since I don't know, really early EXG or even maybe VG. Like I actually think I got to see that Bolo call hack clip live. I think that's hilarious. How long you've come from that. Like it's actually been really crazy. So I yeah, I wish you guys success in the new season.
Hey,
Um yeah, thank you so much for stopping by the podcast and like spending your time with me. I really
well,
appreciate it.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I mean, we definitely talked about some good stuff today. Thanks for having me, and yeah, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that a lot.
And that is stopping the recording.